18 minutes to the top of the hour. Yesterday, the Democratic Alliance and Organisation Undoing Tax Abuse, OUTA, joined the call to reduce fuel prices. There have been increases in all fuel types since the beginning of the year, and South Africans from all walks of life have really expressed concern. Recently, the Inkatha Freedom Party wrote to the National Assembly Speaker Baleka Mbete requesting a debate on the matter in Parliament. People against petrol and paraffin price increases, or PAPPPI, have been mobilising for a national shutdown in hopes that government will intervene. To discuss this further, we are joined by PAPPPI convener Visvin Reddy. He's on the line with us. A very good morning to you, Visvin. Thanks very much for joining us.
Good morning, Leanne, and good morning to your viewers.
And in studio with me, I've got Ben Teron. He's the Chief Operating Officer at OUTA. Ben, always good to see you. Thanks so much for coming in. All right, Ben, I'm going to start off with you. So let's get OUTA's perspective and what happened yesterday.
We made an announcement that on Tuesday we're asking people to arrive in Pretoria. We want to hand over a memorandum to Treasury and the Minister of Finance on Tuesday. And the reason for that being, fuel price affects everybody. Right from the lowest income, and whether you earn or not, it affects you, because when the fuel price goes up, taxi increases come in, food prices go up, because you've got to cater for that. And what we are saying is that it's absolutely critical for South Africa in this stage of our democracy to say, and by the way, the President said our people are suffering. So we are trying to help him to say, we agree with you that people are suffering. Please lower the petrol price so that at least there's a little bit of burden released from it. Okay,
so that's your call. PAPPPI, your call is a little bit more aggressive because obviously you also want a reduction in the fuel price, but you're going to go a different route in terms of trying to shut down the roads in South Africa. Talk to us about your plan.
Yes, Leanne, I just want to say that, and I want to welcome OUTA for changing its stance. Initially, they said that protests will not work, and now they are calling on people to hand over memorandums and march in Pretoria. We welcome that move. But protests, shutdowns, and stayaways is a last resort. When one looks at what happens in these protests these days, it turns out to be extremely violent. People lose their lives. It creates a lot of hazards on the roads and so on, which we're trying to avoid. It also impacts on the economy. As responsible leaders, we have decided to take the bull by the horns and engage the government. We sent a letter off to the President wherein we explained our position. We also provided solutions to the dilemma we are faced currently, the crisis we are facing currently with regards to the high fuel prices. Leanne, high fuel prices affect every South African. We are paying the highest in fuel ever in the history of this country. Our people's wages and salaries have not gone up. How do we expect people to live? Stats SA indicated that over 55% of our population live below the poverty line. If that is the case, the increasing fuel prices will push more people into poverty. This cannot be accepted, and it must be rejected. The solution that we have, and we presented to government already, is Sasol. Sasol Fuels is a South African-based fuel company. And Sasol prices cannot be compared to the international price of crude oil or the rand dollar because it's made in this country. We believe that Sasol fuels can be sold as little as 8 rands per litre. Number one, reduce the taxes on the fuels that we pay. We pay 38% in taxes. 1 rand 93 goes to the road accident fund. We know how this is being mismanaged through corruption and all of that. For 2 years, claimants have not been paid out. They receive 20 billion rands a year in the RAF. There needs to be a complete overhaul of the RAF fund. Why should ordinary South Africans pay for the mismanagement of the road accident fund? Unacceptable. Coming back to Sasol. Sasol produces fuel from coal, and it uses only 23% of our total coal reserves in this country. There's a potential for it to use more. Sasol supplies 1/3 of our country's needs and also supplies our neighboring countries' needs. In fact, Sasol fuel is sold to neighboring countries at far less than what we pay for it in this country. Our message to government is please don't take the people for a ride.
Okay.
The people
All
are
right.
getting frustrated. Our people are prepared to take to the streets.
Yeah.
They're prepared to bring the country to a standstill. We do not want that. We
Okay.
want them to come to the table. We have solutions. We want them to follow the solutions, and we can create a better life for everybody.
Okay.
And also,
all right,
Leanne,
Viswin, okay, we'll continue the conversation. I can see you very, very passionate about this, and rightly so. We do understand your passion on this. But, Ben, I want to bring you back into the conversation for just one or two quick clarities. Viswin saying he's glad that OUTA's had a change of heart and that you are going to be taken to the streets. Is this true? Are you taken to the streets? I know that you're going to be going to the union buildings to hand over
not the union
memorandum.
not the union buildings. We're going to Church
Treasury.
Square.
You're going to Treasury.
Treasury, which is right on Church Square. So
Okay.
that's where we're going to gather, hand over the memorandum, and that's it.
So you're not engaging in any sort of marches and shutting down streets and things like that?
No, we're not. Very simply, people asked us, are we going to do it countrywide? It's a very short space of time to do this. We made the announcement yesterday. Next week on Tuesday, it's happening. Remember, we're a very small organization. We cannot, in the whole of the country, organize these things because you've got to apply for permits, you've got to put marshals out, etc. So we don't have the capacity. So what we said is we will go to the nerve center of South Africa where the money gets allocated, etc. And we want to hand over to Minister Nene to do that. So that's one thing. So it's important that to remember. And I disagree with him that he says we don't participate in marches. In 2017, we were part of all the marches to bring President Zuma to book, etc. So we do participate in that at the right time, in the right manner.
Okay, all right. So I'm glad that there's clarity on that. So this will be a gathering in Church Square, handing over a memorandum to the Treasury with your demands. Now, it seems like between PAPPPI and yourselves, the DA, all of you are on the same page in terms of the levies that are being paid, because I do know that was a big thing that came out of the press conference yesterday, was that there was definitely a call to reduce the levies that we as South Africans pay, because currently we are paying levies, I think taxes and levies add R5.30 to the price of petrol. So, I mean, by bringing that down already, we will be saving. But what would you like to see?
Let's put that in context because people must understand how the 16 Rand is made up of. When the fuel arrives on our shores, either in Cape Town or in Durban, we in fact pay 7 Rand because that is the price made up of either the crude price internationally as well as the value of the Rand, the strength of the Rand. So that's 7 Rand. In addition to that, there are some basic costs that need to be added to that. For example, transport from the coast to Gauteng, and that's why you have the differentiation there. Pipelines need to be maintained, and therefore there's a few cents for that. Then you have retail margin and wholesale margin where the garage owners need to survive. So that comes up to 4 Rand. So that's 7 Rand plus 4 Rand is 11. The difference between the 11 Rand and 16 Rand is where we're talking about, where 193, as was stated earlier, is the RAF fund. Now, the RAF fund need to be, and I know there are plans to convert that to something.
Leanne, this is the mistake that we are making. Everybody is following the same narrative. They're looking at the cost of Brent crude oil. Our option and our solution is not there. It is with Sasol fuels. We are a fuel-producing country. We are not like countries that don't produce fuels. Let's look at countries that do produce their own fuels, like Venezuela. Venezuela, the price of fuel is 11 Rand a litre. Iran, it's 3.59 Rand a litre. Saudi Arabia is 6.85 Rand. In the United States of America, they developed a technology, shale to oil, where they reduced their dependence on crude oil from the Middle East. And their fuel prices has dropped to 10 Rand a litre. South Africa has a world-class coal-to-liquid fuel industry, but our government has not followed the example of the U.S.
Yeah.
Who is the most important people in this country? The people. Let's not talk about crude oil prices. We are producing fuel in this country, and we can make the price of fuel in this country 8 Rand a litre. I am getting sick and tired of the economists, OUTA, and everybody else talking about things which are not a solution to our problem. Reducing fuel to 15 Rand is not acceptable. It's not going to make a dent on the lives of poor people in this country. It has to be brought down to less than 10 Rand a litre.
Right.
And it can be done.
Let's let Ben just reply. Ben?
I'm not disagreeing with what he's saying. I'm setting out the current breakdown
as
of
it
the
stands
16
right
Rand.
now. I understand
These are
that.
the facts. So all I'm doing is just
Laying
making
the
sure
facts on the
everybody
table.
is on the same page when it comes to these. Because it's easy to talk about the 16 Rand and not understanding the breakdown
How
of
it's
that.
made up, absolutely.
Yeah. So I was ending off by saying the RAF got 193, and then general taxes is 337. That brings around 16 rand. What we are saying in the short term, now even today, just to address the question that is raised, even today if we are to say we want to be 100% reliant on Sasol does not have the capacity, they have to increase that capacity. By the way, we are not disagreeing that the price should drop significantly, but there's a context to this discussion. And the context is that South Africa over the last 10 years have been mired in corruption, in abuse of, it's just crazy what happened in the state sector. So there's a long-term process that must be undertaken to eradicate corruption, get the money back from people. All that must be put in place. The people are suffering today.
Yeah.
And what we are saying, while that takes place over the next year, 2, 3 years, to take that out of the system, people need relief today. Yeah. And that is what we are saying right now, is that that relief is possible. And I just want to bring people...
And that will be by you asking for that 20% reduction in the levies that we are paying.
Absolutely.
But now, one just to come in here and saying, economists are saying that'll have a devastating effect, though, because that's a lot that'll be taken out of the revenue, the tax collecting revenue.
Why must the incompetence of government be passed on to people like you and me? Because the corruption...
Absolutely. And I'm getting here.
Okay.
If you look at global
Viswan.
petrol prices...
Me and Viswan going to fight on the radio now.
No, we're not arguing.
All I'm trying to do is to make a point. When you give me an opportunity, I just want to put the point across, and I'll be quiet when he speaks.
Yeah.
The corruption of South Africa, the corruption taken place over there. The day before yesterday, Eskom came out with the results, and these are not confused because they're all interlinked. Directly interlinked. 300 billion rand is what they currently owe. That must now be increased to complete two power stations. Don't forget, a few months ago, Eskom came out and said we can afford off our books R1 trillion debt for nuclear. So that is how dangerous and how irresponsible people are in government institutions. You can't continue that. That's got to be fixed. The reason why we need to do these things, and to answer your question directly about the pressure on the fiscus, is because there's so much money that are left. It's calculated by the economists that there's 100 billion rand lost directly. Now, there's a knock-on effect of that as 200 and 300. The undercollection of SARS also adds to the burden. So, therefore, there's a shortfall there that must be made up. Yeah. That's why President Cyril Ramaphosa had to go out for investment drive, to prop up those money there. Why must you and I now suffer because of that process is there? There's a fundamental shift of thinking required in government. What we are asking here is a very short-term intervention that says now, the people are suffering now, and we need to just give that relief.
We won't be able to do this immediately. I mean, this obviously, this is a huge process. I mean, we would have to wait until the budget is delivered again next year.
That's why we are not talking about VAT, because to decrease the VAT takes a long process, because now there's proclamations that must be made, etc. The fuel price, the levies, can be done by a very simple process.
Okay. So that's something that can be done without having to deliver a budget once again. And that's the demand here, the levies.
I've got to respond to the economists.
One sec, I'll let you have your final say now.
I've got to respond to the economists. Davy Roth yesterday said it's impractical.
Okay.
The problem is it's impractical because we're looking at this in the setup and the context of the past. You cannot continue the way we did in the past. We must have a rethink.
Okay.
What we are asking for is a short-term relief to relieve today. People are suffering. SASA people are standing in queues, and they've got to get three taxis to get into the queues. That's unacceptable.
Indeed. All right. We're going to have to leave it there. But Viswan, I want to allow you 30 seconds to talk to me about what it is that you're planning. Is this you want this national shutdown? When do you plan on doing it? And who is supporting you? That, I think, is a very big question. Who do you have that are supporting you?
Leanne, we have proposed a national shutdown and stay away this Friday, the 27th of July. And that depends entirely upon the president currently, because we want to explore every other option, as that is our last resort. We are awaiting his office. They have confirmed they have received our letter, and they will inform us today of a meeting. We will inform the public. We have hundreds of thousands of people who are supporting our call. The people of South Africa have had enough. They are prepared to take to the streets. They are prepared to even break laws. We are not condoning such action, but we're saying that people are angry, and their anger will spill out onto the streets. We don't want that. We want to be responsible, and we want the government to intervene. The ball is in the court of the government currently. It's in the court of the president of the country, and he needs to meet with us because we have solutions that can bring fuel prices down immediately. Leanne, Sasol is making a profit of 100 million rands a day. Go and have a look at that. Go and investigate that. Sasol has got so much of fuel, they are supplying our neighboring countries.
All right. So
why can't we go back to
leave
Sasol, which is owned by us, by South Africans?
Thank you. Thanks very much for talking to us.
Cheaper than 10 rand a litre.
All right, Viswan, thanks very, very much. I think you have made your point regarding Sasol numerous times, but that's the plan. 27th, that'll be the Friday coming, that they plan on shutting down roads. We'll have to find out more details about when that's going to take place, which roads, how, and who's going to be supporting them. Viswan still sort of not really telling us, but we'll watch on that story quite actively. Viswan Reddy is from PAPPPI, and of course Ben Turon, Chief Operating Officer of OUTA. Thanks very much for talking to us.